Dear Lord, we thank you right now. We thank you for an opportunity once again to come to you, just lifting up, giving praise, and being thankful. Thankful for our health. Thank you for our families. Thank you for our congregation and our pastor. And just most of all, thank you for your word, the word that secures us on a daily basis. Lord, we thank you for compassion. We thank you for love. We thank you for what you did for us. We thank you for dying for us that we would have an opportunity to just live the life that is filled with glory, filled with joy, filled with peace. And we just thank you right now, Lord, as we move into our studies tonight, that we will be uplifted, that we'll be motivated, and we will be inspired to continue to walk this journey that leads to you. In Jesus' name, amen. So how's everybody tonight? Does anybody have something encouraging that you can say before we get started? So what have you learned in some of our book readings and reading the word? What have you learned that can be inspiring for others?
Learned from from Sunday that it's either we have faith in God or we don't. It's either God is the God of miracles, the God of the overcomers, or He isn't. And so, um, you know, having faith is not just this kind of nebulous thought process that we have that is actually tangible and that we either will express it um, in the way that we respond to obstacles and things that come against us, or it's just in our head and it's not doing any good there. That's what I learned from Sunday.
Anybody else? Michael has the mic. Anybody else has something encouraging that you can say? Anything about the Lord and what he's done for you, what he's capable of doing, the hope that we may have. I do know that he impacts me every day. And I know that there are people who are watching us. I'm really understanding that people are watching and that the things that we do can determine which direction sometimes people can go. We're all going through something. And I'm thankful to have Jesus to lean on, to talk to, and to give burdens to. Because he is truly capable of turning your burdens into joy. And then make sure that we stay in our purpose no matter what we're going through. Because people are watching. So that word, that impact is starting to really dwell with me. Facial expressions, how I respond to things, just being there to serve when sometimes you may feel like you don't want to, but you still do it anyway. And you got to do it with cheer. You know, even from what we're reading in the book, you know, it's focused so much on your heart and where your heart is. That has a lot to do with some of the decisions that you make. All right, Tawana.
I'm staying focused on God and His Word, not the distraction. So a couple of weeks ago, Pastor spoke about staying focused, limiting distractions, and now I've learned that that is what the enemy of our souls do. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and distract. So when things come up, and they might be real, and they might, real issues that we deal with, but my focus is on the Lord and His Word. not the issue, not the distraction, because it's coming to get my focus off of him. And so if my focus is off of him, I can't have peace, right? I can't magnify him, which is what we're supposed to do, magnify the Lord, not magnify the problem or the issue. So that's where I am.
I think a couple of days ago, I text myself something that came to mind. It's nothing new that hasn't been said or heard, but it's so many people that I've come in contact with that are looking for reasons not to believe instead of focusing on reasons to believe. You know, the questions that they ask, they try to trick you and want you to say certain things that has nothing to do with salvation, has nothing to do with giving your life to Christ. They try to find ways to distract, like you said, it's just always about why they shouldn't believe. And I think we need to be focusing on why we should believe. And we got evidence and we got proof. And that proof has been around for a long time. And I know for a fact that proof has been in my life. I know I'm a different creature. Each day that I wake up, I'm different. Anybody else?
I have also been focused in making sure that I don't get wrapped up in distractions. I've been more at peace, and it feels so good. It's also exciting to talk about my journey, my walk. I have newer relationships with people simply based off the fact they say, I hear you talk about, what you're learning and what God's been doing and the goodness of God, and it's so intriguing how you talk about him. And it's to hear that sometimes, because I have struggled in the past with I'm not being righteous enough, I don't do this enough. And so to hear someone say that, Clea, that's all you talk about, I wanna know more. I want what you have with God. And then also to talk to people about the books that we've been reading and the healing that I've experienced, to see them curious and wanting to know more about, hey, that book you were talking about, and just stuff that I'm starting to grasp. It just is so exciting to want to experience myself, but also to share with others, to see and journey with them, because that's what I feel like sometimes. Next time I see them, hey, I didn't try this, and when I read this chapter, I learned that. So to honestly be walking with others in this walk and sharing the stuff that I'm getting here, it feels so rewarding. So I'm grateful to, one, be actually taking stuff in and experiencing the peace, not being distracted, but also really honored to share the things that I'm learning here, because not everybody gets those resources.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, sir. I mean, you may as well get used to it, because you are going to end up being up here. So you're finding out now that you all will be up here on Wednesday evenings a lot, which says you will have to have read, digested, ready to regurgitate by application, and be able to show how everything goes. So let me give you a different term. Rather than saying books, they're called tools. What we give out are tools. People call them books. They're tools, because these are not your typical publications that you're getting. They are designed to be user-friendly, with the ability to be able to apply, and it's not like having a good read, because the tendency is when you call it a book, it's just like I went to a movie and I read it and I put it down, I'm going to tell you about I read it. Well, we don't operate like that, because I'm not interested in reading books. Not at all. I am not interested in reading a book, because a book could be filled with junk and a lot of stuff that has no relevance and can't be applied. So we don't just give you things or talk about just to read. It's tools to apply to your life so that the perspective about it is a lot different. That's the intent. And that's why you see the uniqueness of what they are. They're not just random stuff. It's not just random stuff that you're going to get the chance to be exposed to. Now, I need to ask, have you found that out? That they're not just, this stuff is a stereo in your face. It allows you to start thinking about some things in a very different way so that as a result, you're better off. The entire focus on becoming a part of God's family is to become a disciple, to become a disciple. And that really is where this is supposed to go, to become a disciple, which means a disciple is disciplined and they know how to walk somebody down a path where they have been. Now, which means if there's not a path that you've gone down, you can't talk to somebody about a path that they can go down, and you have to serve as a scout for that. You got to see yourself as a tour guide, helping people to know how to get from one place to another because it's a place they have not been before. You will not go to another country and try to tell a tour guide how to take you on a tour. You would go and you hope they take you to places that won't get you in trouble. And you hope they know more about it than you do. That's the only reason you would take them, or you would never go on a tour. You would just go hang out and get lost like everybody else. That's what you would do. So in this regard, we come together, Ephesians 4, to be equipped, so then now we become equippers, and then we take the next step and be able to go and to pass it along to everybody else. So we're going to spend most of our time this evening really talking about trauma. This ties in to Sunday, and somehow we'll pick up wherever we go here, somehow, and I don't even know how the Lord's going to do that, but somehow there's a connection to this theme that he's communicating, that we're on this journey to grow. And being on this journey, growth never occurs with same old, same old. Growth never occurs when things are the same, predictable routines. There is no growth. That's called stagnation. If there are no shifts, no challenges, there is no growth. I was talking to someone today who had a couple of strokes just recently and who has chosen in his own mind not to go to rehab because we just have to play this out. We have to play out how we are, because we don't necessarily like to be told what to do. So we have some things in mind, and so since he has his membership at the Y and everything else, well, I don't really need to rehab, and it's to say, man, you had seizures and you had a couple of strokes, and they're telling you about it, but he decides, I want to go home, and then I want to be able to do these things in this way. So I went on to ask him a couple of questions, a couple of basic questions to let him know just how off he was. I said, so let me ask you this. Are you able to get up out of the bed quickly the way you were beforehand? Well, no, I'm not really. I said, okay, I'm just saying, let me ask you some other questions. I said, do you have a walker that you're using? Well, I use it sometimes. That means you have one. That's okay. Let me ask you something else. Do you find that you are as strong as you were? Well, so do your legs bother you? Okay, yeah, well, my legs bother me. I said, what about your arms? Are you able to lift them up and do all of those things? I said, those are the very things they do in rehab facilities. The very thing that you can't do now, and you're dealing with these very things. Now, that's the very reason why you need to be going. Now, do you know what it's like? Some of God's children have strokes or trauma. We'll call it trauma. And then, instead of going to rehab, they choose to say, I can handle it. Instead of going for occupational therapy, instead of going for physical therapy, instead of going for all of the things that need to be able to come into play in order to make us better. We like suffering through stuff in silence. We really don't want anybody to know. We keep so many things away, and that's why we go that route. That's why we're talking about, have you experienced trauma or are you traumatized? And those who are traumatized are the ones who keep it, don't want to talk about it, don't accept the help, because if you knew where you were going, you wouldn't be where you are. If you knew where you're going. See there? That's tweet right there. If you knew where you were going, you wouldn't be where you are. You would not be, because, and to get to the other side, you got to understand, they know more about it because you won't work yourself as hard as they will doing with physical and occupational therapy. You will not do it. You give yourself a break because they're going to push you. They're going to push you. And do you know part of the challenge, that's what being a disciple is, because it's a discipline. You get stretched and you get challenged and you're pushed to a place where you're saying, I don't know if it should take all of that. It don't really need all of that. That may be good enough for you. But if you say, ultimately, I want to be like him, then that means you got to go to another gear. You got to go to another gear. It cannot be your business as usual, and you saying, I want to be more like Jesus, and you want to follow your same routine you've been following, saying, I want to be more like Jesus. More like Jesus. You get up and you read your 3 nickels and a dime worth of scripture, and then you go on with everything else you're going to do and say, I want to be more like Jesus. If you know you was off that day or off a few days ago, then that says that wasn't enough. Hello, it just says that just wasn't enough. If you're still trying to run away from situations that you face and you hope you don't face them, then that says you still don't have enough word inside. You still don't have enough. And that's what trauma does. I'm sure you found in the reading in places, because primarily we're going to focus on page 179 through 200. And you talk about, in particular, about how your brain stores your experiences. How your brain stores your experiences. So let's just dive right into this. And for those who are tuning in, it should be, are you okay? So, Jerick, we might want to put this up so they know what we're doing, because we'll be done with this week. And then next week we'll be taking a look at the other one. So on page 185. On page 185, you notice, and although there's something that's written that I'm going to take us down another road, but you notice the amygdala, that center part of the brain, is stores. And that's why sometimes you're going along and you suddenly remember something that you really were not focusing on. You weren't trying to think about it, but all of a sudden it shows up. And especially when you start talking about flashback, you're going along and all of a sudden, click, something kicks right in your head about an experience that you had, and it really isn't what the experience you're having right now, but it brought something back, right back, and it was like just like it had just happened, like it had just happened. And the tendency is to avoid the pain of the experience, and when something begins to look like it, then we want to gravitate away from that. You go down the street, you get in an accident, and then you say, I'll never drive down that street again because I had an accident on that street. Well, that just happened to be at that moment, at that time when you were driving and somebody was coming along and the circumstances were as they were and you had an accident. The road isn't just a road that always has accident. You just had one at that moment. But then in our minds, I don't want to go down that road again, because it reminds me of where I had an accident. Well, I'm not going to go back to that theater because people were in there fighting. Well, that's because those certain people were in there at that particular time, and they were doing certain things, and everything else was going on. It was just at that moment, at that time. That's not how it is all of the time. So you notice what happened. Fear kicks in because it triggered that other response that's there. And now you find yourself. So let me ask, how many times have you had false alarms? You got bent out of shape about something because it reminded you of something else. That's what we're going to talk about. That's what trauma is like. It's like that's not what it really is, but it feels like it. And before you know it, you're calling it that. You're calling it the same experience, and it really is not. You say, I know what's going to happen next. I know how this is going to turn out because the last time I did this, this is what happened. Well, does that mean that's what's going to happen now? But in our minds, we've already said, well, you know what that looks like to me? That looks just like the same thing. They don't look right. That's the way that last person looked at me. Notice what starts to happen. You notice what starts to happen. Because the mind now is working, and you're in this conversation with how you're thinking. So let's just talk about that for a minute. How have you dealt with false alarms? Any of you ever had a panic attack? Okay. What's that like?
It's pretty scary.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Yeah, go on. Since you said it's pretty scary, that means you've had one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Once never again, but once. I think I was overworked. I had a great many responsibilities. A lot of people and companies were looking to me for answers all the time, 24 hours a day. I could get a phone call, whatever the case may be. And it began to get a lot, become overwhelming. And so one day I was in bed. It's nighttime. It's getting ready to go to sleep, and I was sitting there, and I was thinking about all the stuff that needed to get done when I got up in the morning and stuff like that. And I began to have this sensation of, I guess I'd call it a panic attack. I've never experienced that. I didn't know what it was, but that's what I'm calling it. Where it was just, I started having difficulty breathing and just, a lot of anxiety. I was just besides myself, that it was traumatizing.
It did not last very long, did it?
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
It went away. I mean, I quit the job after that. But yeah, it went away. But it came, it escalated, it got to a point where I literally was fighting to breathe and to calm myself down, and then, it just kind of subsided, and I eventually went to sleep. But I handled it by tendering my resignation.
Okay.
Not too long after that.
Okay. All right. Y'all want to keep talking about it? You all were about to say something?
Yeah, it was years ago, and the way it affected me was I was shaking so bad. And it was so scary. At that time, my mother was living. So I didn't run to the hospital. I ran to my mother's house. I jumped in the car and went to my mother's house, and she told me to go in the back and get in the bed. And then in my old bed, go in that room, get in that bed. So I went to the doctor like the next day or next couple of days or something, and they never could find anything wrong with me. I don't know.
What was it like?
It's real scary.
No.
Yeah,
No, you're just saying scary. That doesn't mean anything.
I mean,
what was it like?
I couldn't stop shaking. I was
Okay.
just shaking all over.
What happened before then?
Just too much to do. Just overwhelmed.
Okay,
too much
you
to do.
just like your brother back there, right?
Yeah.
All right, okay. All right,
Yeah.
anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, I still have panic attacks even right now, but I remember
Have you had one today?
not today.
Okay, all right.
And they are something. I used to work at a Kroger bakery years ago, the graveyard shift, and that's when I first.
Now, what is the graveyard shift? I know what it is, but what is that?
It's I worked from, what was it, 11 to 7, yeah, something like that. And that's when I started. I was like 28 years old, and that's when they first started. I used to just walk off the job because my heart rate was going real fast, and shortly after that, I was make a long story short.
So why was all of that happening?
Because I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, and I didn't know it. I had high blood pressure.
So
And
which one was it? Was it the high blood pressure or was it the panic attack?
both.
Oh, okay. Now that you know you have high blood pressure,
Mhm.
has something like that happened since then?
Not lately, but it happens periodically, right?
No,
now.
what I mean is you've had that same feeling since you were diagnosed with high blood pressure is what I'm asking.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, what is it like?
It's very it's scary. I have.
Okay,
it in
you're
middle
using
of
the
night.
same word she used. What does scary mean?
Well, it's very concerning to me.
Now, concerning doesn't tell anybody anything. What does that mean?
It's horrible.
It's horrible. That's you just giving more adjectives. What is it?
It's,
What is it like?
what is like my heart rate speeds up. I think it's going to beat out of my chest. Like I think I'm going to go into cardiac arrest. I have to get up and walk around. She witnessed. I get up in the middle of the night, and she'll try to calm me down, but it goes away. It does eventually goes away, but it's something. And
So you are a pacer when it happens.
I just get up, drink water. I try to do whatever I can to stop it, to
Okay.
make it stop.
Okay. All right. Anybody? Anybody else? Panic attack. Anybody else behind you, Michael? Okay. So, All right, go on.
A panic attack.
Okay, but describe it.
Um,
I mean,
so-
it couldn't have been too many years because you're just 15, but go on. No, but go on.
I was working, and I remember just gliding my tongue across my teeth, and out of nowhere, it was hard to breathe, and I was kind of confused. And I had to sit down. I was dizzy, lightheaded. Then I came to realize that I remembered in the car accident.
So did this happen in the car accident?
After the car accident.
Okay.
During that, or after it happened, I remember gliding my tongue across my teeth to see if it was still there because I got hit real hard. So I was just checking to see if my teeth were still there.
Now, is this the panic attack or the accident?
No, so the panic attack happened after that. I guess I got triggered after doing that because that was the last time that I had, slid my tongue across my teeth. Was after the car accident.
So you want to try that now and see what'll happen?
I don't have panic attacks
Okay, all
anymore.
right, okay.
But that was the last one, and it was really scary because I just, like I said, I
Okay,
could
so
hardly breathe.
all of you all are using these words scary. So Ted, what else is it about it? Rather than saying it's scary. There are scary movies and there are other things, so that's why using those terms don't really mean anything.
Outside of scary, I don't know. I didn't know what was going on. Why I all of a sudden couldn't breathe. I don't know. I just
Okay.
think of scary.
Okay. Okay, now here's the thing. Now you say you feel like you're dying. What does it feel like to be dying? Now let him get the mic. I want to hear what this is. Why don't you get the mic so we need to figure this out. What does it feel like to be dying?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
'cause
so
I'm
but
still here,
you see how we
but-
do things? But go on.
But
Go.
But when your body's out of control and you have no control over it, you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
You know? So. you
But no,
don't
it's
know.
just to say how we take terms and we make them into things. But okay, I probably shouldn't be paying that much attention to what everybody say, but but anyway, but I do. That's terms: scary, woeful, vilifying, torture, confusion, disoriented. Okay, all right. Anybody else? So there's something in here on page 188 that I'm going to make a difference between what's being said, and that's talking about that healing comes in layers. So we're gonna challenge that aspect of it. We're gonna challenge that, but I want you to go back and you've noticed it says if you really want to work through this, you need to have somebody to help you work through. And it's not just talking about panic attack, it's talking about dealing with a traumatic experience. Because oftentimes a panic attack will occur as a result of a traumatic experience that you begin to find out as you reflect back, just like you talked about being overwhelmed by work activities and all the things that you have, then there's always something that precedes it. There's something that precedes like a panic attack. And you may have a traumatic experience, but do you walk around calling yourself being traumatized? And there are some people who really are. Coming out of the military, they call it PTSD, and they call it, before they start using the fancy term PTSD, they used to just call it shell shock. That was just a normal term, and then you just always knew something was wrong. Now they created a term to say this is what that really. Notice what it says: post-traumatic stress disorder. After the traumatic, say after traumatic stress, then they call it a disorder. It's after a traumatic experience that's loaded and it's always triggering. It's always triggering. So if you really think about it, a lot of people have undiagnosed PTSD. And they're walking around and not knowing that they're on the verge. That they're on the verge. On the verge of something. You could have had this traumatic experience at some point in your life. Something scared you, something frightened you, something intimidated you, and you're walking around in fear and have never examined the fact that that's what it is. And you're wondering how oftentimes you don't want to engage other people, you have low trust things, you don't trust a lot of people, and the people haven't done anything. They haven't done anything to you, but you don't let people get close to you. You're not trying to connect to people because you got this fear that something not so good is going to happen because of what somebody has taught you, told you, or some experience you had where somebody betrayed your trust, or somebody hurt you, harmed you, did something, violated you in some way. And you begin to build these walls, and in so many instances, nobody knows but you. And because of that, it's to say that thing is going to have you in this traumatized state, difficult to live in a very free way, because that's this inner battle that you're dealing with. You know this experience, and you're looking at people through the lens of trauma, through the lens of being traumatized, and now you're looking at people in that way. They don't have any idea as to why you're engaging them in this way, but you're battling. You're really battling. Yes, sir.
So, Pastor, I'm thinking of there's two incidents now that we're talking about it. I had a car accident. I was making a left out on Ferguson and Page some years ago, and this car was coming, and the car wasn't stopping. And so I just braced myself and took the hit. It seemed like for a while after that, whenever I would be at Page and Ferguson, I would flinch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm talking about, Trace, you remember that? I would, I would flinch. Then the other one, when I was in college,
So do you still flinch when you go by there now?
No, not now.
Okay.
I forgot about, since we've been talking, but no, I probably should have been diagnosed. But the second one was when I was in
Tracy,
college.
the next time he drives by there, you check him.
Yeah.
Check him out. We got to see. Now that he's been reminded, you got to watch him the next time you go by, but go on.
And so the other time was in school, and we had reported something to the administration. Some people were stealing. But anyway, shortly after that homecoming, these guys came into our dorm that I reported, and I felt the barrel of a gun as we were struggling, me and my roommate, with these people. Then they ran and left. It seemed like years after that, after I graduated, I would wake up in the middle of the night with that heartbeat, with that, whew, man, but never went and got any help for it. And eventually it stopped happening. But yeah, those things are real. Yeah, I felt the barrel. I guess what could have happened kept coming back.
Mm-hmm.
What could have happened, even though it didn't happen. Yeah, so yeah, those are two experiences. I didn't know if that's panic attacks or what. But I don't know if
it's not so much about it being a panic attack. That's that trigger. That's that traumatic trigger, and that's back again. Here's the thing: what you all hear me saying, and as she gets ready to go, what you've not been healed from controls how you live. I mean, it's going to still be right there. This thing will keep resurfacing, and it really is tormenting. In 1 John 4, when it says fear has torment, then that really is what you're talking about. It's this fear, and it rattles. It rattles. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. It's very uncomfortable. Yes, ma'am.
So I am trying to get past the of being stuck. It is something as much as I want to say that I'm over it, I have dealt with so much pain, it should be easy. It is not. I literally today had to go and have blood drawn, and the vein was rolling, and I'm panicking on the inside. Like I tense up. Every other part of my body other than the extremity that they are sticking. As a child, I remember them telling me that they were going to strap me down in that, whatever that device was that they used to strap you down in if you wouldn't be still. And so I've learned to move every other part of my body but what you're trying to stick. And it's heavy, it's weighty, it's torment. And as much as I want to say that I've given that to God and I've prayed about it and I'm like at a place in my brain to say that I should be over it, I'm not.
Okay. All right.
And it terrifies me. Like, that was something me and Tawana and Nafisa were talking about today, and they were like, you know, every time I have to be stuck, that I go to that same place, and I do. And I don't know how to get past
You want to be free,
that.
you want to be free from that tonight?
I do.
Do you really?
I do.
Or do you just is it just in your
No,
head?
I do. It's not just in my
Okay.
head. It's,
No,
it's real. 'Cause
I'm just
it
saying, are
hurts.
you just saying that in your head that you really want to
No,
be free?
I really want to be free. Like,
Right,
I
okay.
still have a procedure on the 15th where they have to place an IV, and that is like in my brain, and I don't want to be like that.
What's the day? What's the date?
Today is the 6th.
So what are you bothering the 15th for?
Cause
Okay, just hold on. Just stay right there. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. Yes, ma'am.
So it's not a panic attack. I have to say mine is anxiety. And it happens in my sleep. I could really be thinking or dreaming of something. I remember having a dream that like a metal square just dropped over my house. Sealed in the house, sealed in. I couldn't make phone call because of reception, and this was in, and I woke up like in a panic, as if I was in a closed-in space, but I was not. So if I'm woke and I go through an MRI, I can talk myself in, out of it. I don't get it, but the thought of it being or even if I have one nostril is stuffed up, the thought of I can't breathe, I can hop up and, it's just a
Now, this in your
thought
sleep or is that part real?
Now that one was real.
Okay, all right. All right, I was wondering, were you still in the
But
dream? That's
no,
why I was asking.
I know, because I just thought of that, because I'll make myself hop up to get the thought out of my head. I'll do something purposely to get that thought, because if you let your mind just sit and think on it, and then, of course, I begin to be anxious for nothing and repeat that over and over. But it's the anxious thoughts. That it can just literally wake me up out of my sleep. Or if I'm even turning over, I could think of something at work, and it's a instant snap that I'm woke now because I had one little thought. Yeah, I want to be free tonight too.
Okay, anything else? Yes, ma'am.
And on the way here, it's funny how I'm realizing now that we're talking. I said, let me try. I usually come down Lucas and Hunt, but I said, well, let me go down Jennings so I can turn and I can look at the shop. Because they broke it in
Had the shop gone anywhere, or was it still there?
It had not, but as soon as I was about to turn that corner, I felt myself go numb, and I started thinking about what if somebody broke in again.
All right, so we got 3 who need the same
So
thing.
I was going to ask you, is it panic or anxiety? Because I've always had that I just go numb. Like the time I was talking about, it's usually after the overwhelm. While I'm overwhelmed, I'm making it through. But then afterward is when I'll have that just going numb or anxiety or just like, so
All
I
right.
don't know if it's panic or anxiety, but I get through whatever it is that's overwhelming, and then I have the attack.
All right, so Brother Roland, let Elizabeth weigh in on this, on all that you've heard.
Come on, Dr. Liz.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's all how you perceive the situation. You're pre-thinking what's going to happen that hasn't happened, and you're going back and forth, back and forth. Like you're talking about the 15th, but we in the 6th. We in the 6th. Where like I said, it's a preconceived notion that this is going to happen, and your mind is letting you think, well, it is going to happen, and it's a reality when it's not. It's not a reality. Nothing has happened. God is still in control. He's still over everything that you do, but it's a preconceived notion. It's predestination. This is going to happen. But that's you saying that. You thinking that this is going to happen, and it's not happening. And now we all do it in any situation. Like I was talking to Pastor Petty earlier today, I work at the VA. My father was a patient on the floor that I was a social worker on, and I was the social worker for MICU, and he died at the VA. Now, how many people feel that they can go back to the same place on the same ward that your parent died in? But I realized God was in control, and I had to move forward. The thought is, I'm moving forward. He wouldn't want me to think that way. There was opportunities that I need to provide, so it's up to you to make a determination and correct that thought. Close that thought and move forward in the strength that God has given you. Because a week after he died, I still went to work. I still on the same floor, saw the same room, saw everything. God has given you the ability to do that also. You just have to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to walk through that door. There's a door that's closed that you need to open and walk through. You need to walk through that door. You need to stop giving anybody, Satan, the opportunity to say you can't overcome it, because you can. You can do it. If I can go to work and be where my father died and go there every day, you can do it too. You got to be able to close it out and walk through that door. The door is there. Pull the handle. Let's think about it. The three of you stand up. Let's stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Turn around. Stand up. Open that door that's closed to you. Walk through the door. Keep walking. Keep walking through that door until you realize that you can overcome anything that you're going through. Keep walking through that door. Roland, you too. Keep walking through that door. Keep walking through that door. The door is open. Keep walking through that door till you realize that you can overcome it. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. And he's walking with you. Now, who has the greatest strength? Keep walking through that door. The door is open. It's open now. Put your trust and faith in him.
So the sustainability of what she's talking about is only secured by the word down inside. Because as soon as you make the effort of everything that she said, you're going to be triggered. You're going to be triggered all over again. And the question is, what do you do when you are? Like, what happens then when she says, walk through? What do you do when she's not around to say, walk through? I got that. But in your head, you wanted to do that anyway. Just understand what we're saying. In your head, you wanted to do that anyway. What becomes different for you when you come with the same thing? What becomes different? So, talk a little, we're good at operating on two levels. We're good at operating on two levels. It's the third level. It's where the breakthrough is for trauma, for panic attacks, and it's the third level. It's the third level. The parts that we have down without a doubt is the intellectual part in our minds. We've got that down, and we've got the feeling part down. Those two, when I feel like doing something, I'll generally go on and do it because I've made up my mind to do it. So those two levels we've got. When your mind is made up about something and you're clear about it, nobody is going to talk you out of it or stop you from doing it. Those are the two levels. Those are two levels that we've got. But those two levels by themselves are not sustainable. They're not sustainable. They are situational, and you're okay for that moment when you've made up your mind. That's why oftentimes you could have a lot of strength and tenacity to do some things in a situation. And you're not thinking about it, but you made up your mind. No, I'm not. You're not going to do me like that. And you make up your mind and you do it, and you've done it. Now, the behavior that was being described for what you all were talking about, clinical or professional term is neurotic or neurosis. It's that just like that little rat on a wheel. Just this. That if you think of neurosis, just think of a rat turning on a wheel and just there. Running fast, and in a hurry. And the wheel isn't taking them anywhere. Just keep taking them the same way, and you find yourself you're just still doing it. You're busy, you're doing it, you're getting it done. Now that's what that is, and it has to be broken. It has to be broken. So the two levels that we operate on, we're okay there because you could have a task and get it done at that moment. But it becomes the sustainability of it, and that only happens at the third level. That only happens at the third level. I'll get to that in a minute, but back over on page 188, where it says healing happens in layers, where you begin to peel it away and you get to one thing, and it said it may take months and years to peel back the layers and for you to be healed. Well, I'll circle this and say, it doesn't have to be that. It does not. It does not have to be that, because what we're focusing on is you want to get to the root. Once you get to the root and you uproot something, then now you've got it and it's done. Now, if you trim it, if you snip it, if you prune it, if you do that, then yes, you'll feel a lot better about it. It might not be as intense, may not be as difficult, but the root is still there. And until that is dealt with, it will always continue to be going in that direction. That was something you want to add?
So I don't have panic attacks. I have a lot of anxiety. And mine's come from riding on the highway. Now, I learned out that I thought it was me driving, but I would be in someone's car, and they're going up and down hills, and it would make me sick. At one point, I used to have to get to the bottom of the floor in a car until we were off the highway. So that's where I am. So now,
that's where you are now?
Yes, now I don't even want to drive on the highway. I literally, when we come past like 270, I just have this anxiety that I have. So about a week ago, I was trying to get somewhere. Someone had explained how to get there, but I made a mistake and went past where I was supposed to exit. And once I realized, I'm like, where's the wall? I realized I was on 270, and I had a lot of anxiety, and I began to start praying, oh, let me get off this highway, because I was afraid I was going to go to Alton, Illinois. So anyway, as I was praying, I was able to get off the highway to get where I have to go. Now, mind you, I've never been afraid of the highway, but I'm telling you, it just makes me nervous, even just passing it.
Now you said you've never been afraid of it, but now you are afraid of it. Now, what are you saying?
No, what I'm saying, I felt it coming a long time ago, but I would actually be in the car with somebody, and they're going up and down the highway, and that made me sick just even watching it. I'm not driving, I'm in somebody's car. And I just didn't like going up and down hills on the highway. So what I'm saying now, I don't even want to drive on the highway because I don't like all the hilling and the going curves and all of that. It just makes me nervous. So that's what I'm saying.
So is it the speed of the highway or is it the highway itself? Because there are steeper hills than what the highway gives you. There are sharper curves than what the highway gives you. That's the reason why I was asking. You could get the same design, the same configuration
I know.
in certain places going around. So therefore, is it really the steep up and downs and the curves, or is it the speed of the highway? Because you could be driving the same contour in a neighborhood, depending upon where you're headed, and going from one municipality to another one because of how the roads are designed so uniquely.
It's the hills.
That's different than you're saying the highway, because you face hills. You go down certain roads and you take steep turns, and you have no expressway, and
Right.
you're facing the same driving dynamics.
Yeah, it's the hills and the curves.
That's different. That's totally different. And now, so what we're doing now is using that as an example to identify the real route. The real route is, she said, the hills and the curves, not really the highway, but it was tucked behind the highway. When now it actually comes out to say the real route is she likes to ride flat surfaces, basically. Because it's just the way things are. You're going to be facing that. It's just in a number of different places. You go down some parts of Hanley, it just depends on where you're going. You're going to face things like that. It's going to be like that. So therefore, you get to the root, and that gets back to, and let me point you, and then we'll get back to this in terms of what you're reading. The truth journaling part is something that you all have heard me talk about. Write the journal and put it up against the truth and what you're feeling. Pages 196 and 197. You write what you're feeling, and then on the opposite side, the truth. And we've talked about how you can actually do that. We talked about how you can do that. So, but getting past the thing, and how do you get to the root? What's the third level? Well, let me give you some passages you can go back and take a look at, and then I'm just going to talk you through this over the next few minutes. In 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 3 through 5, it talks about strongholds, casting things down. 2 Timothy 10, 3 through 5. This is one. These are the anchor things that take you to the third level. The third level really is in the spirit realm. It gets away from the intellect and in the feelings and in the other things that you're there. The intellect and the feeling. The third realm is in the spirit, and that's what has to be cultivated, because that's the part that's sustainable, gets beneath the surface, and the word does not return void. Because intellectually, what you can do is you can make up your mind and convince yourself that I can, but it's not sustainable. It's good for situations, but not sustainable. Then the other one is in Romans 12, 1 and 2, where it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You notice each one of these is talking about your thought life, your thought life. Like what are your thoughts? Where are they driving? And your thoughts can be subject to your heart. They can be subject to your spirit. In fact, they should be. That's why it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And then it goes on to say there's got to be right down beneath. The heart is talking about the spirit in that regard. So the next one, Joshua 1:8, this book of the law shall not depart from you. You shall meditate on it both day and night. Notice it's back to the word, back to the word, back to the word. Then finally, Philippians 4, verses 4 through 8. Cast your cares, release it to him, don't be concerned. Then his peace steps in. Once his peace steps in that surpasses all understanding, then he said, how do you secure the peace that surpasses understanding? You start thinking this way. He's already unleashed the peace, but to lock it down, you got to keep thinking the way he thinks, or you'll drift. So if you're not intentional about what you think, then you'll end up thinking something else. Because you have random thoughts versus I need to be thinking this. So a lot of us need to take index cards and probably write some things down. I need to write down whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things of a good report. So when I start drifting, I need to pull out a card, any card. Either one of them will pull me back on track. You need to keep it so it says, had a bad thought, click, pull out one of those cards as a reminder. I need to get back to where I am, because if you don't, one ugly negative thought they have relatives. And they're coming. They're coming. They come in packs. They come in packs. You don't have a single bad thought. They come in packs. So therefore, if you don't shift it, that's why it says you gotta come over here. And that's the level, that's the third level that takes it to a place that makes it sustainable. thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against you. Because he said, wait a minute, do I believe that when he said he's not given me a spirit of fear? 2 Timothy 1:7, God has not, and I got to fully embrace that. It said, if God has not given me the spirit of fear, then where is fear coming from? If he did not give it, so then I got to stop and say, wait. If fear enters, do I have to give it a place to lay down and rest? Because I can't stop it from entering, but I don't have to let it stay. Because that's where the captain said, no, I'm not focusing on that. I need to come over here because I know he didn't give me this. So since I know he didn't give me this, I'm not going to nurse it and endure it. I'm not going to nurse it and get caught up. So, Tangela, it's just a matter of you're not nursing and trying to say, you know what I'm doing right now? I'm thinking about the 15th, and here it is, a week and a half. In between now and then, there's no telling what may happen. There's no telling what may happen. You may start pumping and all your veins start coming out in such a way that they're rising up 1.5 inches above your arm. You don't know what may happen in between now and then. God just might say, I'm going to give you, I'm going to have a special vein to show up. All of a sudden, you just don't know what he's going to do. You don't know what he's going to do in between now and then. Because literally, he's already there. Time has no limits for him, so he's already on the 15th. And we waiting for it to happen because it said a day is as 1,000 years and 1,000 years is as a day to him. So it's kind of like this means nothing for him. We finite with these days. That's why they're talking about daylight saving time on Sunday. Well, it's just another day for him. He let us call it daylight saving time. It's just another day for him. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Even when the 15th comes, this is the day that the Lord has made. I'm going to rejoice in him, whether it's the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. So then why should I stop? Because the dreaded 15th is coming. But now all of a sudden I say, this ain't the day that the Lord has made. I'm not going to rejoice and be glad in him. Because isn't that what it boils down to? So he says this third level is getting it there. And because these things, and so focus on page 199. You can take a look at that later on about the list about breathe and how you work through. But here's the deal. Some things happen and you can't stop everything from happening. It doesn't care how much you try. You can't stop certain things from happening. They're just going to happen. The question now that it has happened, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? Like, so you all need to give Gwen a different route so she don't have to go back down West Florissant when she go home. Maybe she ought to go down 270, get 170, and then cut up and then cut across 40, go backwards, take the long route and go another route. That way she don't have to pass by the shop.
I have to go there every day, but what you just said really helped. You said you cannot stop things from happening. So God already knows. So I don't even have to worry about it and if it's going to happen, it's going to happen anyway. So no sense in me worrying about it.
Now, isn't that a song that you all sing, I don't have to worry because he working for me? Is that a song you all sing? What is that? What is that song? What song is it? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, all right. You see how we sing songs.
Yeah, that's so true.
And we be getting a hookup on them.
Don't even believe
Be
it.
shouting and rejoicing. And most of the time, we don't be paying attention to these words all the time. We just be doing it. We just be doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember you told someone, and I was listening, and because I think she had tests coming, and you told her, you said, it's too much living to do between now and then for you to be worried about that day. And that, I never forgot that because that really helped me. You just gonna stop living until that day?
And something Gwen just said too that you said about, you can't stop things from happening. I think about Esther when she says, if I perish, I perish. And that's something that I have to say too. I'm not getting ready to be worried about, like with, bad medical news and things like that. I got too much living to do, and that day ain't even got here yet. The Lord is there. He already sent his word out before us anyway. So, whatever happens. The Lord still has us. And I think that's the thing we need to get deep down inside, that He's in control. We be trying to control things with our thoughts, can't change nothing. So if we're going to trust God, we just need to trust him and live.
See, if he's saying to us, and all these things, the traumatic experiences, the losses, the challenges, all prompt some level of fear or uneasiness or anxiety or nervousness or just unsettled. It causes indigestion. It just gets our systems off. Our systems just get all off. We start eating more than we need to. We start doing all kinds of stuff in response to it. Because some people eat themselves away because of their nerves. They just start eating, gouging, and doing stuff because you do that nervous eating, and before you know it, you're eating stuff that you haven't eaten, and then you mix it, and then you got a bad mix. And then the bad mix complicates your life in another way because you've eaten all kinds of things that don't even go together because you just was splurge eating, just doing stuff. And then wondering, my stomach hurting. And it's like, well, how many different things did you put in the last 30 minutes? You put this, you put a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Oh, so therefore, and it's because you're trying to soothe. What they call it is comfort food. It's just soothe it. Whatever it is. What'll make me feel better? Whatever make me feel better.
But
because you're hoping it goes away.
But Pastor, that eating all those combinations, it never has a good result. It never does. And
but
while
you're doing it, you could care less. You're not thinking about the back end. You're looking at the front end. The front end of it is, I want some of this too. It's after the fact. You're like, what have I done? What have I done?
I just want to point out a realization because I'm thinking so. Why was I thinking that way? And I'm trying to get to the root of it. And the root of it is really money because I'm afraid to have to spend some more money. And it's not about, my house even got burglarized twice. It never bothered me to go back in to sleep, whatever. But, with this business, I'm like, this is costing me money. And so I'm thinking if they break in again, if they get some more stuff, I got to replace it. Yada yada. So the root of it really is money. I'm just realizing that now. Just being real.
I already knew it. I wasn't going to say it. I'm just so glad. Eyes been open. Eyes been open. Eyes been open. Because, my thought about it was when it happened, I say to her, we're able to pay for it. That was my response. I said, you know what? They did all this, but the Lord allowed us to be able to cover it. So that's what my focus was in a whole nother space. But I let it go on. I won't say anything. But it was fear that was driven by fear. By fear. So let's take up an offering for her, because that's what we need to do. We need to take up an offering for her. Yeah, that's what we need to do, because you heard her. She's having anxiety here about money, about money. See that? It's fear. So it's the word. It's getting down, looking at what he says. For instance. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. You're one of the they. You're one of the they. 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. Know ye not that you have been bought with a price, and your body is not your own? Therefore glorify him. Because he says, you're not your own, you've been bought. So you know what that says? Who's responsible for you? Are you? Because now it's a new owner. He said, I'm responsible. He said, I'm responsible for you. So now you're not responsible for yourself. But the tendency is to start saying, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? If I don't look out for me, you can't take nobody else's word. Then like, well, but you push God over. He's saying, well, what am I? What am I? You going over here doing this, and you worry about this and worry about that. It's like Tangela and everybody else. Think about this. He made every cell in your body. He can call them by name, and they have to respond. Every strand of hair, he knows what it is, whether it's short or long. He knows what it is, and if he says something about it, it either grows or it dies. It either grow or it dies because he's got the word. He's got the word. He said, that's mine. He said, that's mine. He said, not just certain parts of you, every part of you is mine. So he just says, so you want to be responsible for yourself? I'll let you do it. All the silver and gold is mine, Gwen. All the silver and gold is mine. So he says, there is no lack. And he said, you, my daughter, he said, all of it is mine. Now think about this. Even if somebody took some of your silver and gold, what you thought was yours, it still is his. Did you realize that? It still is his. So whoever took it, he can make sure they don't keep it. So are you following this? See, that's the whole deal. That's the whole deal. So next week, out on the page, then they'll be able to see the book that we have. So that's already on the screen. But Rewiring Your Heart, we'll go through the first 2 chapters next week. Rewiring Your Heart, the first 2 chapters. Because this is all about what do you put in front of the other? Like, what do you put in front of the other? And because there are people who are wrestling with traumatic experiences and they're frozen by it all. They need to hear some victories. They need to hear about behind you. Got to be ready. They need to hear about some victories to know that we are. You know, they talk about who's a survivor. You need to know that you have survived and gotten to the other side of whatever it was. While they're in it, they don't know that it's possible. So that's why you need to be able to say something to them. Okay, yes, ma'am. It's on.
I want to say that I was on a cruise ship that caught on fire, but that didn't stop me from cruising. The next year, I was on the next ship. So I've been on 13 cruises, but I've been on a cruise ship that caught on fire in the middle of the ocean. He was with me. He was with me.
Well, I'm the one that caught on fire one time, but it didn't stop me from riding in a car. You know, the car, the gas container exploded, and gas just went all over me. I tried to put the
wipe it off.
Yeah, but Did you tell me how you ran? But I know everybody say, you should lay down, but first thing I thought about was running. Yeah, I mean, people was driving down the street telling me to lay down, but I'm running. I'm trying to get out from under this. I fought the fire long enough, and it won't go out, so I'm running.
Because what you were doing, you were stirring it up, giving it oxygen, giving it air.
But I finally came to my senses and stopped. I had to strip, I was over there by Homer G. Phillips, but I had to come out of everything. And I had on double knit pants, and they just melted on my leg.
Right.
But just as soon as I could, I was back in the car again. It didn't bother me about, getting in the car, But that was, when you stand up there and you just see flames, you trying to, and it just won't go.
Yeah, because you panic.
Yeah, but I panicked and I ran.
See, you all they never thought they'd see Al run. Now, see, he just told you something, right? he just told you something. Yeah.
So past that last thing you said, I'm going to let my son listen to it. He went to Houston this weekend, and almost time to come home, him and his girlfriend stopped at a store. He opened the trunk to get something out, all the luggage in the trunk. And she said to him, you shouldn't have done that. But they closed, they go in the store, they come back out, the car got vandalized.
They saw everything in the trunk.
Yeah.
That was advertising.
He lost everything.
That was advertising.
Everything but his wallet. And so we kind of shared with him that all that stuff belongs to the Lord. We actually said that to him, but I think that's going to be good. I'm going to play that for him. That last piece, even the people that got it, it's not theirs. You know, I think he's okay, so I think he's traumatized right now. But he said, Daddy, I think God is talking to me.
You said he thinks.
That's what he said.
He
said he thinks.
He thinks.
Yeah.
Now he thinks. Now tell him it's not a coincidence. Tell him he needs to have his rear end here. Now that basically is what that boils down to. He's called him and he's running.
Right. And the other thing is that Tracy and I both want him to pay his tithes.
Okay, well, here's the deal. Mom and Dad, leave it alone.
Okay.
Talk to the Lord that the Spirit of God would bring him under conviction, that he yields to him. The money follows the person. If the money is the easy part, it's the heart. It's the heart. It's the heart. Now, but see, he's following like Dad. He's a money lover. He's following in his dad's footsteps. I mean, that's just kind of what it is. Mr. Penny Pincher himself. I mean, he's following in his dad's footsteps. We didn't say you did, right? Now, we didn't say you did we? We didn't say you love money. You know where it come from. You like counting money. You like to know where it is. That's now you just answered the question. You just answered the question. You just answered the question. You're answering the question right now. Because you know what that is? Because you know what that means? You like to keep up with it. The other term is guarding it. You like guarding it. No. Let me walk down so you can understand, so you don't take offense on this in the wrong way. You like to guard money just like everything else. Let me explain to you. You like everything in order, where you know where it is, where this goes here and this goes here. That goes there and that goes here. Is that true or not? Now, I thought he just said I didn't know anything about him, right? I just told him that I know a whole lot about him. Now, hold on. Just kind of listen to this now. No, just kind of listen. Just kind of listen. No, hold on. So this is getting good now, but we got to get out of here. But see. And no, you don't have to do that. There's no need to apologize. All you were doing was corroborating. That's all. You were just corroborating. You're corroborating. No. What is focusing on? He's watched you. Is what the point is. He's watched you, and because he's watched you, in his mind, he believes that's what he's supposed to do. In his mind, that's not saying you told him that. But he's watched you guard money. And his interpretation of it is what he's doing. Because they try to mimic what they see based on the lens that they're operating from. Now, it's just like my son. He knows I'll give anything away. So he's always looking for folk to give something to. In general. And I don't count money. Somebody else better count it for me, because I don't count it. I just use it. I mean, I just kind of use it. No, I don't. See, so if she's guarding it, I don't need to be guarding it. If I'm saying I don't need to be guarding it, if she's guarding it, I don't need to be guarding it. Yeah, I don't need to be guarding. So in other words, you operate through the lens of what you see, and until you see it in an alternative way. Now, how we've handled our challenges, not talking to people, and we stop in here, when we don't talk to people about the challenges and concern we have, if you go back historically, you'll find that what's been embedded in you prior to now, you've watched somebody or they told you that it was not a good idea, and we don't talk about things that we wrestle with to other people when we should, because the healthiest thing is to do it. Not just to anybody, but to somebody, one who's more mature, he can help you walk down a path, and it frees you from a lot of heartache, a lot of stress, a lot of the other things that come along with it, and to not be overwhelmed by traumatic experiences, but to grow from it in a very different way. But we have to be willing to talk to people. We have to be able to admit our challenges, our struggles with things, without having a sense of shame or embarrassment and letting our pride get in the way of saying something about it. Because of pride, some people have died in hospitals and who went there too late because they didn't say anything. And they knew something wasn't right, but they would never tell anybody. They would never tell anybody. So there we are. Any last thing? 'Cause we need to stop. We need to stop. But all what we've done had to get out. So now you got a story to tell. So we need to ask. So Tangela, are you free or are you stuck?
So I definitely trust God. I know that the same God that was with me and delivered me during a heart attack is the same God that holds the veins steady and makes sure that they get it in. It is not that I don't believe that they will find it and they will get it. I trust God. Like during that time, that is what I am doing. I am quoting scripture. I am bringing God's word back to his remembrance. It just don't stop it from hurting. That's all I'm saying. But I believe God that what needs to happen happens. It always does. I never allow the fear to stop me from doing what needs to be done. I had a choice. The cardiologist was like, we can do a stress test or we can do the CAT scan to look at the arteries. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? He was like, you got to get an IV either way. Oh, well, let's do the CAT scan because then we don't have to, you can see what you need to see with that. If you do the stress test and you don't get the results you need, you still got to do the CAT scan. So let's just stick me one time. So I definitely believe, and I know that the presence of God is always there with me before I can even open my mouth to say I need help or before I, so.
All right, so let me just tell you this, and then I'll be done. You don't go anticipating pain. You go to go through a process. You got to change your lens. Go on, and then we'll go after your question.
I know Jesus did not sin at all. So I want to know what's the difference when he sweat so hard that the blood was coming out before he went to Calvary. What is that? I know it wasn't anxiety because God says be anxious for nothing. So to me, that's a sin. That wasn't Jesus. But what was that with him?
In his humanity, the pressure of it all, the burden that was going on. Think about what had happened before he got to Calvary, how much he had been beaten, how much blood had been lost, all of the things that was transpiring, the kind of scrutiny his body was under, and the thought of bearing the burden, being fully divine, but being fully human. So the human part, that's what it would produce. Now, at some point, what we'll do is, when we get to resurrection time, then we'll talk a little more from the medical view of what actually happened, what all this did from a medical perspective to show that happens in real life.
Can we say that's what Tangela is doing, being human? She's anticipating the pain?
Because if she doesn't anticipate the pain, who says there will be pain?
Okay.
Because, well, they may sting, they don't have to hurt. There's a difference. No, there's a difference.
Okay.
There's a difference. Because all the time, for everyone, they don't always find the vein all the time for everyone. Then on other occasions, they find it right away. Then you have to decide when you go and you sit, knowing that it's a process, they're going to do X, and your body is going to respond to your thoughts at that time because it's subject to your thoughts. When you anticipate they're about to stick, then your body locks up, freezes up. They're about to stick, and I'm going to feel it. Now everything happens right there. Versus, what are they doing? First of all, you don't have to look at them. You don't have to go through all those changes. They're going to wrap you up and tighten. They're going to keep praying and pressing. And you can get in your head. I hope they find something. Now you're already, your body's stressing and tightening because you're in anticipation of an event that's to occur. Versus, you just let them finish doing what they're going to do and go. And then just go. That really is it. Otherwise, you're going to be in great anticipation. And every time you do that, your body's tightening up. Everything about it starts to happen because you're like, okay, when are they? How long is it taking? What's taking them so long? Now notice what that's doing, what all that is doing. It's like what are you going to do? You go to the dentist and they're telling you what they got to do. What are you going to tell them? Stop! What are you going to do? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it's like what are you going to do? Yeah, I mean, it's like, what are you going to do? You going to jump up and run, or are you going to sit there and let them finish doing? There, you gotta decide. So in other words, you got to trust the process of what's happening there, knowing that he's right there with you. Even if something doesn't go exactly where you want to, you're trusting him that this too will be, you'll get past this too. And it's kind of like, on to the next thing. On to the next thing. All right. Okay. All right. See, now you all are getting it. Trust. You gonna have to trust God. Trust God when you think it's easy. You got to trust him when you don't think it's easy. You just got to trust him. Don't change it because of the severity of the situation. Just trust him. What you think? God got up and left you while you was in there? Said, this too hard. Do you think he's saying this is too hard for me too? What do you think he's doing? He getting up and leaving you in there? Okay, all right. So. The last time I know that Jesus left, he was headed to heaven to sit on the right hand of the Father. That's the last time he left. And he says, because I'm there, I can make intercession for you in spite of what you're going through all of the time. He says, so if that's what I'm doing right now on your behalf, then what makes you think I'm not paying attention? I'm interceding for you because I'm your greatest advocate right there. So, Father, we just thank you for what you're doing, how you keep us, protect us, shield us, strengthen us, guide us, watch over us, soothe us, allow your peace to consume us that surpasses all understanding, although you don't tell us everything in advance. But you always are shaping and conforming us into the image of your Son. So all who are here, ask that you will watch over them as they go. And for those who are tuned in now and who will, allow your word to speak peace to them. And we thank you in Jesus' name.